name is Tessa, and I'm a resource room teacher in Michigan. And I wanted to share how I create IEP snapshots for general education teachers, for grade level teachers. In previous years, I used to just print out a page, like I would create it myself and print it and give them the hard copy. But more recently, everything since COVID really, and even before then, everything is becoming more digital. And so I've been using Google Drive and Google Docs. So my current district, we use Google for everything really. And so I've been using a lot of Google Docs. And so that's how I share IEP snapshots. And that works really well because it's really easy for me to edit and then just send them an email saying, okay, here's the updated information from their IEP. I'm going to share my screen so you can kind of see what I create and share. So here is an IEP snapshot for a second grader, and I changed the name, of course, and I sometimes use X for names in these documents too when I'm using as demonstrations. So this is Joe Schmo, IEP snapshots. I usually just put my name there as well. And then I've gotten their most recent IEP meeting date and then when their next IEP is due. So whether it's an annual review IEP or if it's a reeval, I put that in there as well. And then for eligibility, I put why they're eligible for special education services. And this student has OHI for ADHD. So oftentimes it'll just be the eligibility and the qualifying criteria. But if they do have a medical diagnosis, I include that as well. And all of these headings like eligibility, student strengths, these are all straight from the IEP program that my district uses. I just follow the same structure as those IEPs. So that just makes it easy for me to work between the two documents. And I just copy and paste. So I type in the eligibility, but then for student strengths, I just copy the student strengths from the IEP. So I've got X is a friendly, confident second grader. There's more there. I try to really focus on as many strengths as possible. And I share strengths that I see in the student. I ask for input from the rest of the staff attending the IEP. If not at the meeting, then before the meeting. Parents, I just want to capture everything that we can in a positive way for the student. And then I include the parent guardian concerns. And I just take that right out of the IEP as well. So the next area is supplementary aids and classroom accommodations. And I just copy and paste this table from the IEP program. And I'm really into formatting and making it look right and look good and flow. And so I kind of wish I wasn't because it takes a lot of time. But if you're like me, then you might have to, mess with the borders and the font size and things like that just to make it work. There are different ways you can do that. You could merge boxes together if they have the same, so all of these accommodations in the same location, so I could just make them all, and that tends to save a little bit of room at the bottom. Or if I wanted this to be one line, you could resize the box or whatever. There are different ways to do it. So what I like to do is if I can, I want to have the entire accommodation table on the same page just because it's easier to look at and refer to. But some students may have 10 accommodations and that's not going to fit on that page. And that's okay if it goes to the next page. But I figure if I can fit it all, then I will try to mess with the formatting to make it work. So I just copy and paste their accommodations. And then I've got the resource room goals. So I always put the number of goals a student has just because there are times where the accommodation table is very short. And so their first goal might be on this first page, but they might have multiple goals. And I want the teacher to know to look out for more than just the one goal, that there's more to this document. So I list the area of need, the sub area, and the goal. And then programs and services provided through IEP. The student only receives resource room services. But if they received physical therapy or occupational therapy or speech or something else, it would be included here. And then resource room services range. So in this snapshot, I have it in paragraph form just saying their IEP requires these minutes per week. This may include time spent in the resource room and time where the special ed teacher pushes into the grade level classroom. And then I always have a note at the end, let me know if you want a copy of the entire IEP. So another example would be this fifth grader. I'll name them John Smith. Same formatting, same look as the second grader's snapshot, but there's a few differences. So this student's eligibility, they are eligible under both an SLD and speech and language impairment. So I have the information for both of those. I've got the strengths, the concerns, and then programs and services through the IEP. This student receives resource room and speech therapy services, so they're both listed. And this student, I've got, instead of a paragraph, just stating how many resource room minutes are required per their IEP. I've got weekly service range for resource room services and monthly service range for speech services. So that's something that I would only add to a student who receives speech services to their IEP snapshot. But it's also one of those things where when I update a student's IEP snapshot or create a new one for a new student, that's the time where I might be like, you know what, this makes more sense, or let me write this instead. Let me include this instead, or make it look this way. And then if I like that change, then as I update the rest of the IEPs that school year, I end up doing so. And so if this is something that I like to use, then my next student who receives speech services, I may change their snapshot to include this information shared in this way rather than the other way. So it's just kind of your personal preference, what you want to include or how you want to say it. And then the other thing that this student has that the second grader didn't is a table for state assessment accommodations. So in Michigan, students take the M-STEP, and third, fourth, and fifth graders take that test every spring. Third and fourth graders just take ELA and math, but fifth graders take ELA, math, science, and social studies tests. So the student's fifth grader, so they would receive accommodations for all the testing. And again, I just copy and paste that from the IEP program. So I try to make these as simple as possible, as accessible as possible, and as easy for me to update and create. Because the faster I can get something done, the better. The program that my district uses for IEPs, it has an IEP snapshot included in each IEP, but it is very busy. There's a lot going on and it can be overwhelming. So I just figured it would be easier if I just made my own snapshots and shared them with teachers and have them look essentially the same, except for, a few updates I may make, like I mentioned about the service times. Like, I want them all to be formatted the same, look the same, so they know what to expect. So those are my snapshots. The only other thing is, at one point, 2 school years ago, so the 22-23 school year, one of the fifth grade teachers approached me and requested that I make some sort of document that lists all of the fifth grade students' accommodations all together, instead of having to go to each individual student's IEP snapshot. And in my school, there are 2 grade level teachers per grade, and second through fifth grade students switch, if not daily, at least multiple times a week. So I created that for the fifth grade team. This is the document for second graders. I just have IEP snapshots, all second graders, as of, and I have the date, because I always update it whenever I make edits to it. I've got it in two parts. So it's teacher name 1, teacher name 2. So if you live or if you work in a building with 3 or 4 or 5 teachers all in the same grade, then yours would look a little different. It would be a longer document. So I've got students here listed, and I've got links to individual IEP snapshots are embedded within student names. So if you click Joe, it would take you to Joe Schmo's IEP snapshot. So this is a nice landing page with all students, individualized IEP snapshots, but also a table that shows all the accommodations they have. So depending on how many accommodations students in that grade level have, I may be able to fit them all in this table form, or I may have to add some underneath. So extended time for assessments and assignments, they both have that. So I just kind of searched online for a checkmark graphic, and this is what I found that I liked. Small group testing, they both have that. I added a little note that Joe also gets one-on-one small group testing. So she could get small group or one-on-one testing. And then going through the same thing, they get a check if they have that accommodation with a little bit of extra information for those specific accommodations. And then writing support. Some of my students have writing accommodations, and the descriptions in their accommodation table can be long. So I just, instead of trying to fit it all in this little box, I just make a separate spot. So over here I do have X student also has positive behavioral check sheets that are used daily within gen ed and special ed classrooms. So I couldn't fit that up here in the table, so I just made an extra line underneath. And then writing support for one student, for Mo, would be here, so that they can see that and they don't have to go into the IEP snapshot to see the details of the writing support accommodation. And then teacher number 2, the same thing. I have all the students here. I could just click their name and it would take me to their personal IEP snapshot. All the check marks for everything they have. A few students in this classroom have writing support, so the asterisk goes down here, see below for writing support details. There's a few students who have extra accommodations that didn't fit in the table. So this student has OT monitoring services. This student has preferential seating and memory aids. And then the writing support down here. It did take time to create these. And one of the things that I wanted to do for the following school year was to create those summary pages for all the grades, just because I thought it would be helpful. Like 5th grade was the only grade who requested something like that, but I figured if I'm making it for them, I'm sure it would be helpful for other teachers too. So it takes time, like everything, but I think it was worth it, and they were appreciative of having the snapshot as well as the whole list of all the students in the grade level. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, or you think something else should be included. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to catch you in another video.